Sorry, everyone. Hi, I am Caroline Calaway. I am based in Seattle, Washington. I work for Electronic Arts, and I am part of the external development team here. So I'm part of the business development org at EA, and we basically look for third-party developers all over the world to help us make our games. And I am very glad that everyone has joined this morning for me, or this evening for you all, and really looking forward to this panel. So why don't we just jump right in with a quick round of introductions. Olga, do you want to start?
Oh, hey, sure. Thank you for inviting. I'm happy to be here. I'm Olga Ryzhko. I'm in Kiev, in Ukraine, and I'm part of the studio called Frogwares. Frogwares, that's the independent developer. We are 80-something people, I think, and the studio is 20 years old, a little bit more than 20. We are mainly doing PC and console games. When I say independent developer, I mean that we are doing our own games for ourselves. We don't do any, work for hire or co-development for someone. We are doing our own games, and we are now self-publishing, including self-financing our own games, and mostly known for the series called Sherlock Holmes, which are investigation, action, adventure, and now also open world games. So this is it. Thank you.
And Lola?
All right, thank you so much. My name is Lola, happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm working at Homa Games. Homa Games is a mobile studio and a publisher. We're distributing apps worldwide, and our main focus right now is hyper-casual. I'm a senior publishing manager, and I'm working with external developers on a daily basis. Right now, I'm based in Paris, speaking from Paris, but we're based in 3 cities, Paris, Toulouse, and in Lisbon. So in this panel, you will hear a lot from the point of view of hyper-casual industry, which it's a bit different from yours. So I'm very happy to share that.
Great. And MJ?
Hello, everyone. So I'm the CEO of Babil Games. So I started Babil back in 2012. Basically, we were concentrating on publishing for Middle East and North Africa. We got acquired by Stillfront Group and back in 2016, and we started expanding our publishing territories for mobile devices, basically worldwide. And we concentrate on mid-core and hardcore games.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for quick introductions. And right before we jump in, I just want to provide a little bit of clarification in case anybody is confused about what what we mean by service provider. So by service provider, that's just another term for a third-party developer. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. We're hoping to give some good insights about what from a publishing perspective we're looking for from third-party developers, and how those relationships have changed in recent times, and understanding kind of where the pain points have been and in working with third parties. So let's hop right in. So what are the top 1 or 2 reasons you would reach out to a service provider or a third-party developer for support? And let's just go, let's start with you, Olga.
So for us, I'd say divided into 2 main directions. So the first one, it would be helping Frogwares with its production needs. And that might be external QA, when submitting the game to the first parties. That might be, localizations, that might be getting age ratings when releasing the game in Japan, for example. That might be creating of marketing assets, all the trailers, so on and so forth. So that kind of things. And secondly, probably the one that you're most interested in would be porting our current games, or games that we already did, bringing them to other platforms. So most of the time we don't have this experience, or we don't have the expertise, in-house, and we don't find it relevant of growing this expertise or allocating our internal resources in order to do everything in-house. So we then reach out to the partners, to the companies who could help us with that kind of things.
Thanks so much, Olga. And Lola, what about you all?
It's very interesting, Olga. Thank you, because here in Hyper Casual, it's completely almost the opposite. The top reason we're reaching out to the external developers is actually to make a game that we're publishing, and it's our main product. It's interesting that historically Hyper Casual was 100% done externally. So all the apps that you would see, all the games that you would see on the charts, it's all external development. Right now, the trend goes into internal development. There's been a lot of acquisition, acquiring of the studios by the publishers. But still, if you look at the App Store, for example, you would see that half of the games are still externally developed. And I would say why is that, of course, with the experience of the studios, because hyper casual is not it's not one genre. It's an umbrella of genres, and the studios, they're experienced in their own genres, and it's very hard to curate the same kind of level of experience inside internally. And of course, the volume of production hyper casual is huge. It's really hard as well to do internally. That's why we keep working with external developers, and mainly just to actually make the product full co-op on the development.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And MJ, what about you all? What are the top one or two reasons that you might reach out to a service provider or a third-party developer for support?
So basically, our main reason is always to find quality games to publish to our players, and that I would say it's a little bit between both parties. So basically, our relationship extends into several years with the developer, because we work on mid-core and hardcore games. So we're talking about 3 to 5 years of very dedicated relationship between us and them. At some points, we really feel that I'm working with my own team, because I've been known these guys for several years. We talk on a daily basis, but the main requirement is basically finding the right partner to be able to work together for several years and to have success together.
It's really interesting hearing the different perspectives. I think this group has a pretty wide range of reasons to reach out to a third-party developer. I would say at EA we're probably skewing mostly towards what you just mentioned, MJ, but some of both of your other experiences as well. So really interesting. And one just quick thing to mention that I meant to say up top is that we will be doing a Q&A at the end. So please feel free to post your questions in the Pine app or the Pine site, and we will get to those in the last 10-15 minutes or so. All right. So what are you mentioned some of the things that you reach out to a service provider or a third-party developer for now. Has that changed in the last few years? Have you found that, for example, as content, consumers want more and more content, the games industry has just grown tremendously over the past, decade, and there are more reasons to reach out for third-party development. So I'm curious to hear what what you all may have maybe sending, to a third party now? That's different than a few years ago. Who wants to hop in first? Lola, I'm going to pick on you.
Happy to do so. The main reason why we're reaching out to external devs haven't changed. It's still solely to do the games. We're focused very much on quality games to make them hits, to make them super profitable. But what interesting that it's changed kind of the responsibilities and the expectations from both parties. In the beginning, the whole production was only on studio. The studio was providing the finished product to the publisher, and publisher would be only providing services of publishing, which is monetizing and UA strategies on the game. Right now, as a publisher, we're sending way more support to the studios. It's more of a cooperation. We're supporting them with game ideas. We're supporting them with game design expertise. We're even giving right now tech support. So, for example, we're happy to look into the game, see how we can eliminate some bugs. So it's really became a kind of cooperation rather than just expecting our external studio to provide the full finished product. Even when it goes to next stages like iteration, publishing, right now very more support is expected from the publisher.
So basically, if I jump in, I would say that what has differed for us in the past years and now is that, as we grow up and as we evolve, and as I explained to you that before we were, a publishing company only for MENA region, and, we were looking for games only to publish in MENA region and for the Arabic audience. And at the moment, our focus has changed to be, finding IPs to publish to international markets. And also, what changed to us is that back then, we were looking, our criteria changed. So we were looking for good games from good studios. Right now, we're looking for great games from great studios, and also that these studios potentially in the future we can acquire, basically because the relationship between us as a mid-core hardcore publisher and the developer changed over the years, because we're providing games as a service, right? And it's very important that in the end this relationship stay strong and continue over the years to provide the players with evergreen games.
That's really interesting, MJ. So for you all to, reach out to a third-party developer, I mean, it sounds like you've had relationships for a long time and tried to have those relationships long-term. But when you first start working with a third-party developer, are you going into that with the idea that you will eventually acquire them? This is a bit of a sub-question here, but curious.
So basically, it comes with always with extra details and options, as in the industry. But yes, so potentially, when you look at a game, you always check the background of the studio, how many developers they have, what's their capacity, how good they can support it, what's their engine they're using, and so on, multiplayer, and all these details. You have, I'm sure, with your experience, have worked a lot with that. And basically, yes, we look at this looks like a good game. This looks like a good studio. It doesn't belong to anyone yet. They have, been working on games for 3-5 years. They have, for example, a medium success. With our help, with our knowledge, we can really scale them up. If that works, it means a great opportunity to bring them in and becoming one big family, and we continue that success on and on. So yes, we always look at that from the start, and I wouldn't say that we're very pushy from the start, but it's always something that we should study.
Great, thank you. And Olga, did you have anything to add for what you are sending to a third-party developer now that you may not have a few years ago?
Well, I cannot say that we have a huge experience with that. In the past, I'd say we've been quite moderate into that, and we've been trying to do as much as we could internally with our own resources. Today that we are looking, for the new platforms and new technologies, it's not that we always have time or experience or, again, the resources to handle that in-house. Like porting, for example, porting to other platforms, or creation of trailers and all the marketing assets. So basically that's, it's our internal business kind of decision. If we have our cinematic team focusing on the production and delivering, the milestones on time, I'd say, or if we have them creating the trailers for the, again, marketing and business needs. So in the end of the day, this is what we are thinking and choosing between. But saying if it's been different for us, I cannot say that. I'd say that we are just starting with the service providers for us.
Different in the sense that you weren't necessarily working with service providers before, and now you are, it sounds like. So it's also interesting to note. Yeah. Great. Well, one thing that I think a lot of people are curious about from the publishing perspective is revenue share expectations and how how that plays into all of this. Sometimes it's work for hire with a third-party developer, and then sometimes there other ways of sharing revenue, or doing some kind of like bonus model. So I'm curious. My question is, have you noticed a change in revenue share expectations with service providers in recent years? And if so, what has changed, and what do you attribute changes in revenue share expectations to? MJ, let's start with you.
Perfect. So actually, just to give you some background information about me, before starting in the mobile gaming, I also came from the free-to-play PC and web, when it all was way before the mobile. So I will tell you from my experience what have majorly changed for me is that before, when we were on PC and web, and even when the mobile started, most third-party developers were asking whether for minimal guarantee and license fee, and then with all the details of the rev share and stuff like that. Yeah, so it basically was totally different than when we're talking about now. If we're talking right now, we're talking totally rev share or a profit share with a dedication for marketing. So basically what the developer wants to secure, and what we can provide him, especially these days on mobile, is user acquisition, and show them our strength in user acquisition and be able to support their game globally. But back then it was about the developer having a big chunk of money before any work starts on the game. So that's what have changed for us basically.
Yeah, I can also relate to that. But user revenue share and profit sharing is a big topic in hyper casual, because it's one of the main models how we work with the developers. I would say that a couple of years ago, and for industry like hyper casual, a couple of years ago means the start of the industry. Except the few publishers, everybody did revenue share, and it was the publishers who would establish the revenue share on the market, and everybody kind of had to follow it, because there was no, the market wasn't saturated, and there was only a few choices of publishers and a few choices of studios as well. Right now it became much more flexible. Right now we started models where we also support the studios during the prototyping production term, and that it means that it affects sometimes the revenue share. But it's something that can make you very competitive in the market or lose your competitiveness. So the models are very flexible within one publisher. We can have different models. Some students wants a bit more support during the production, and they don't care that much about the revenue share. Others completely opposite. So for us, it's most important to find something that works for both of us in order to achieve the goal, which is creating a hit as fast as possible and is in most comfortable way possible for both parties.
I do not have a lot to add to that. We're not, I mean, the way that we're working with the external partners, that it's a rather tasks based. So basically, we have some kind of
work for hire.
Yeah, work for hire or fixed fees that we are agreeing in before we starting. So we don't really share revenues with the projects. So that's not us.
But I have a question here. For example, if you're using a third party to help you to publish in Japan, for example, or in China, still you don't have any revenue share.
That's called licensing, and
Okay.
then that's a bit of a different story.
All right.
I'm sure there are costs involved in the licensing, but slightly different. It sounds like than what you all may experience, Lola and MJ. And you know, in working with third-party developers, what have tended to be the biggest pain points that you've experienced? Have you had any kind of growing pains when you've started to work with you know, third-party developers, or issues as you've continued to work with them? I'd be curious to hear about each of your experiences.
So I will start with that. I have so much pain to share with everyone.
Sure.
So basically, I would start with the first one. So the first pain I would face is that, you know, when we're discussing a deal with, you know, with a new vendor, a new external developer, is that they don't have any idea about, you know, how the deal is done, and they would be amazed about, you know, the industry standards we tell them, and amazingly they give you amazing numbers or expectations that it shouldn't be happen. Like that's, you know, one of the biggest pain, that, you know, you spend 2 hours discussing something that actually does not exist in the industry anymore. That's one of the points, actually. The other point is that, and it happens, I think, in so many deals, is that, you know, you expect something, then you get something else. And basically, you know, you expect triple A, and you get, you know, minus A, basically, as a service from that developer. I would start from, you know, lots of bugs, long time, until, you know, milestones and so on and so on. And basically, you know, you have your own timeline and your own teams working, and, you know, you have a specific date for publishing or soft launching that game, and you know, communication between you and the developer is not that amazing. So these are the things that, you know, majorly give us pain and hard time these days.
Yeah, I would say that in hyper casual we're kind of we can avoid that a little bit, just because due to the nature of the industry, that the prototype in hyper casual takes maybe 1 week, maximum 2 weeks. So the conversation and the communication with the developer goes daily, like even hourly, and on very casual way. We're using Slack channels, we're using chats. we call each other very quickly because the projects are super going super fast. So I wouldn't say like I don't say it's perfect always, but we're always it's more of like looking for the blocking points, why we can't move faster, why the product is not a certain quality, and trying to kind of come up with solutions. Sometimes, for example, it's a lack of resources on developer side, so we're trying to see if we can increase the financial support so the developer hire someone else. So I think, yeah, due to the hyper casual kind of industry, like just because we're talking to developer hourly, either we see it's a good fit, and we try to, eliminate these blocking points, or if we understand with the developer that it's not just good fit to work together, then we try to just to stay friends and to say, yeah, well, maybe it's better that we work with different parties rather than pushing it, because for us it's like working with a studio, it's more almost kind of an HR process, because once you start working with a studio, they become almost the part of your company because you talk to them on a daily basis.
Have you all had any pain points in, when you're working so quickly and hyper casual, you're talking about 1 or 2 weeks for a prototype and then a month or so of development after that. Have you experienced pain points where like the third party just really maybe gets it wrong, or it's not quite to your liking, it's not something that you would publish, and that you have to, have you had to do any kind of big pivots? Or do you tend to work with third parties who just really know you all well and know what you want?
Yeah, well, we try to start working with every studio and see how we fit. Of course, it happens that we're not on time or the quality is not what we expected, but it's always when we talk about afterwards, it's always due to communication rather than a real problem with the studio. And then we try to see, okay, where did we as a publisher not communicate it maybe clearly on our standards, on the requirements, and what we can change. And for example, if we see that for some reason the studio is not achieving the requirement of the quality, for example, of the prototype that we need and we signed for, really trying to ask what kind of what's missing. Is it something that we can give to you, some kind of education, assets, anything we can do for you to produce the quality that we signed up for, rather than just to not be only satisfied and to feel the pain point. But of course, like during on a daily basis, there are many small miscommunications that we're just trying to make better and better within every day.
Well, I can probably add that that's always challenging to evaluate the quality of the service that's been provided to you at once. I mean, the task or the job is done, it's paid, it's sealed, and you're just like kind of thinking that it's done for you. But then, there is something that needs to be fixed or something that needs to be taken care of. And then you got to deal with that actually. For us, most of the time, everything is good though. So it's not that it happens a lot.
That's very lucky. It's not the case for everyone, I'm sure, but yeah.
So.
Yeah. And kind of piggybacking on the pain points that you may have experienced, what are a few best practices that you all have found to lead to the most successful partnerships? Whether those are short-term or long-term relationships. What would be your recommendations?
For me, I would say that I slightly touch point on that on the previous question. For me, it's defining everything before you start collaboration, and that can be taken into kind of a transparency, a trust umbrella. For example, before committing to anything, without defining actual terms, requirements, the quality requirements, being very transparent into what can you deliver and what can't you deliver. So there's nothing expected from you that you actually can't. And sometimes it's okay to not be able to deliver. Just have to be very transparent about it. I think without that, it will be very hard, to achieve the goal at the end of the day. And without trust, if you don't trust your partner, either with the confidential information, either with that they can deliver things in a timeline when you're not in the office, for example, we can't follow up. Without that as well, it's going to be very hard to achieve mutual goals at the end of the project.
Totally.
I would say that it is true, and I will also add on it that you mentioned communication, and communication, trust me, is super, super important, right? It doesn't only matter we can communicate easily, but one of the most things I found to be helpful is that, to work with developers basically within the same time zone or something around that. So basically, developers that we have difference with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of time zone difference works out. But the moment when we jump above that, especially to 8 and 10 hours difference of time, so basically, if we say, like working with something within like a studio within Canada or USA or something, like that, it becomes very hectic because, we sleep when they woke up, and, it doesn't, communication becomes very hard. Tasks get delayed 24 hours until, it reaches us or it reaches them, and it's very, very hectic. That's a very good, important point, which is communication. I would say also the second point is passion. So basically, working with developers that are passionate about success, and putting everything to make sure that they have their game to be very successful. We found out that these people, when you find them, it's really important that we provide them with all the support they need. They listen actually to all the tips and tricks and helpful information. As a publisher, we provide them. I'm not saying we know better, but in your experience of publishing several games and collecting all these market data and so on, basically you have the know-how of that specific market or country or issue. So basically, when the developer understands that, okay, I will listen to my publisher because he knows, how to make this game successful. I'm all in, providing all the support, all the technical support, and so on. You have a much higher chance of being successful.
Absolutely. Those are two very, very key points: communication and passion. Absolutely. I think that goes for really any engagement with two parties, two or more parties. And Olga, what about you all? I know the service providers you all work with are a little bit different, but any key learnings there?
Yes, a little bit different, but I can probably only second what Lola and MJ were saying. Communication, professionalism, passion for what they're doing. That's probably the key and the best practices that we are looking also in our partners. This is what we want to offer from our side too, and this is what we are looking from the external one. Probably that's it. That's it from us.
Yeah, sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
For now.
It's yeah. Hopefully things continue to go well for you all. And just to kind of wrap this up before we head to any Q&A, are there any kind of last thoughts you all have just in terms of the relationship between a publisher and third-party developer? Any thoughts that you all would want to share with a third-party developer on maybe best practices, we've talked about some, but anything having to do with just engaging with a publisher. Any thoughts?
For me, just maybe not on that exact your question, but thank you. For example, hearing Olga made me think about the expansion of what we see as external developers and external help. For example, it started in hyper casual that we were only asking for external services for game making, for game development, and right now I would see that the industry grows so fast and there's opportunities to expand more, and we're actually reaching out to other service providers, for example, companies that help us to publish in China. And there, for example, we are still on the revenue share model, but there are our service providers. And, the company that as we grow bigger, we are reaching out to the companies to do playable ads, for example. But still, it's interesting. For example, Olga, you were saying that I think it was on the video production as an external service providers. We're still publishers, especially in hyper casual. We keep everything in house. We're still making creatives in house, even if it's a lot of workload. It's just an interesting specificity of hyper casual to keep as much thing as possible in house than rather than reach out to the help of the service providers.
Well, I'm happy that something that I could be useful, at least in the idea side. But again, back in times, I remember Frogwares been trying to do everything in-house, but that's not always relevant. Growing the team too much, growing that to be the big that you cannot handle everything. Speaking of which, Frogwares is now looking for the producer who would be dealing with the external partners and service providers. So if there is anyone who's listening to us now and have the experience of shipped projects, do reach out to us and let's talk.
You bring up an interesting point about you all reaching out versus a third-party developer reaching out. Do you all tend to start those conversations, or do you like when service providers reach back out to you or reach out to you about opportunities? Just curious.
Both, I would say. We have a very strong business development team. But also we love when studios recognize the brand when they see our games on the top chart and they write us direct messages. Like we as well enjoy very much like organic leads, developers that are just stepping in hyper casual, that they're not necessarily famous studios, and they just send the games through a submission form. This we also appreciate as much as reaching out to high quality experienced studio in the industry.
On our side, I would say that it's both ways. So we reach out to developers, when we find some interesting games or projects. Developers reach out to us because they see we are successful on mobile games and strategy genres or other mid-core to hardcore, and they provide us with showcase of their projects or games. For me, I always look for a very specific thing, which is, I would explain it. It's like the chemistry that happened between us and the developer. For us, it's like a marriage, right? So it's always painful, but it's good. So basically, it's always about the chemistry. So there's a specific feeling you and your team get when you find that specific developer. So I'll always look for that hunch. So that's something very important for us, actually.
Awesome. And MJ, did you have anything? I know I kind of led that question a bit astray, but do you have any final final thoughts? Anything you'd want for a third-party developer to know? I know it's a big question, but to know about working with a publisher.
So basically, I would add that third-party developer, especially the ones that have not already experienced working out with publishers, is that in general, publishers are not bad. They're here to provide you with support, expertise, know-how, bigger teams, more experienced teams, more advanced tools to make you successful. So if you're really thinking, especially in these days where user acquisition costs a lot and growing up, scaling up your game is super hard, and you need all the effort in this world to do so, then definitely you have to choose a good publisher for your game. Whether it's hyper casual, mobile, mid-core, PC, console, it's all the same basis, which is you need a very good publisher.
Or go without the publisher and go for the self-publishing, like Frogwares is doing now.
Yeah, but that's different.
That's different.
That's different.
A lot.
Really great stuff.
If you're a new studio, you will not be able to self-publish these days. And I would say, like, even if you get funded, you don't want to spend all your money on user acquisition after spending, I don't know how much time of developing this game, spending so much money on your resources and so on and so on. So basically, of course, companies who started 20 years ago, it's not the same as the ones who just started right now, right?
Right and correct. And I mean, yes and no. For the newly established studios, small ones, indie ones, right? They are more focused on to the development rather than bringing the game, to the distribution, bringing the game to market. That's true. But at the end of the day, someone has to do it. And I'd say if the developers, they know how to do it, they have, I don't know, better chances of working with the publishers. Even if they are going to work with the publishers, they still got to be aware of what exactly everyone is doing into this marriage, like saying.
I would say then this subject would need a whole new session, because we can discuss it for hours, right? Basically, it's all about risks and how you can manage your risks, and then you have your resources, and basically it's a whole other discussion. We can spend hours and hours doing it.
Absolutely, there is a lot more I am sure we could cover. It's been really great to get different perspectives. I think each of you has come with you have a unique business model, and hopefully this has been helpful for any third-party developers who are listening. And I think at this point, let's just turn it over to any Q&A that you all may have. I don't see anything posted yet, but please feel free to ask any questions. I know there's a slight delay on the viewing end, so we'll just wait a moment, and otherwise we'll wrap it up. I know it's pretty late, or getting later on a Friday for I think most people viewing this, so I wouldn't be surprised if people are ready to jump off and get into their weekend, but happy to answer any questions. I'll just wait one more minute. All right. I think that is a wrap. Unless any of you all have any final thoughts, I think we can end this just a little bit early, let everybody go on to their weekend. And yeah, this has been awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was really great.
Hey,
And stay safe, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
yes.
See you next
Yeah,
time.
pleasure
Yes,
being
stay
here.
safe. Stay well, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.